Quick question, those of you online, you can give a thumbs up, whichever option you like. I know no one's played, but I think this one can be more fun today. How many people in here by a show of hands would say you think I look quite young? Look younger than what I probably am even? 8 of you, that hurts a little bit. How many, there's only one other option. How many people, no, you look and talk and act old. Feel it? Yeah, okay. You guys don't want to participate in anything, yeah. The reason I said that, I was thinking this morning as I was getting ready, taking a shower. I know that's the image none of you want in your head, but getting ready to take a shower, and I thought this is the almost the exact time, this time of the year, in this month, in 1993, when I, at a little country church, said I want to be a Christian and put my faith in Jesus. So I was kind of thinking back to that, and it hit me, 1993. Some of you older people in here are like, well, that wasn't that. I graduated in 72. That was right. Some of you kids in here are like, 1900s? You were alive in the 1900s? How old? I get it. And as I was just kind of thinking about and reminiscing about all that stuff, a couple things happened. So started in this little country, Myrtle Tree, Missionary Baptist, amazing people. You hear me talk about it all the time. And this is a phrase I use a lot because it means so much to me. So I'm kind of getting into this, trying to figure out Jesus, and I had a lot of pictures of Jesus, and he's probably, he's angry, or he doesn't like non-church people, or if you don't go to church, and Jesus doesn't like you. And I had a lot of different pictures of how Jesus was. So what I did was I started reading the Bible, and I was talking to the pastor there, and he's like, yeah, you just want to read the Bible. So take a Bible, go home, and I read. I think it was Genesis, maybe a little bit. Got into Numbers, Leviticus, and just quit. If you've ever read through Leviticus and Numbers, I don't know how you make it. It's just like, it's just straight and then all this, it's crazy. So I came back, I'm like, I'm kind of fading a little bit. He's like, no, don't start with that. I need you to start with the Gospels. I'm like, okay, what's the Gospels? And I know I've said this before, but just want you to hear it. So okay, he's like, no, you start, these are the stories of Jesus. I'm like, that's great. So I start reading in Matthew. Matthew's the first one. Read through, this guy's awesome. He's doing amazing stuff. He's way different than anything I imagined. And then you get to the end, and it's kind of sad. It's a little bit sad for a little bit because all of his closest friend, one of his closest friends betrays him, and they kill him. Like, oh, it didn't end like I thought it would. Read a little bit longer. Oh, turns out he comes back to life. Great. Story's awesome. So I am in. I'm 13 years old. Like, well, this is awesome. I'm in my bed at night just reading this stuff. Get to, the very next book. It's like Matthew, Mark. Read it. I'm like, oh, there's some cool stories. He kind of redoing some stuff. I get it. And then I get to the end. They kill him. Comes back to life. I go, no, Luke, read. They kill him a third time. I'm like, he's got to get smarter than this. He's got to not let these be. I remember I went back past, he was an older guy. I'm like trying to figure out, and he's like, no. These are all, I wasn't that smart. He's like, these are all the same story, just written by different people. Oh, okay, that makes sense. The reason I tell you that, and I say all the time, it's so important to me. As I was reading that, 13 years old, in Arabia, Ohio, being a complete knucklehead that did nothing but stupid stuff, it hit me. The people who were nothing like Jesus. And more so, Jesus actually liked them. We can all pull that game a little bit like, hey, yeah, I love you too, and that's fine. Tell it to your kids, tell it to your wife. But it's something else when someone comes to you and says, I like you. I know that sounds counterintuitive. You're like, no, I'd rather be loved than liked. I don't know. Because I think in our culture, it's like, love you too, okay, whatever. But when someone's like, what, I like you. I like being around you. I enjoy your company. And Jesus did that with the people who were the most unlikely, literally Jesus. The people who are nothing like Jesus, but more surprisingly, he liked them. So that started in my life, kind of this thought of just this amazing, and I remember reading one night, and this is kind of cheesy, but it's true. I think it started to hit me, would Jesus like me? Like, I get God loves me, but would Jesus actually really like hanging out with me? Like, maybe he would. And it kind of blew my mind about the way maybe all of us think about and interpret the Bible and Jesus and God. So with that, that's kind of the journey of how this has all happened. And what I'm going to share with, so the reason I shared that is we're going to go through the book of Nehemiah over the next few weeks before Easter and talk about what's next. And Nehemiah is kind of like me, I think, kind of unlikely what he's about to do. If you think about, for me, being on the stage, and humbled to be here, humbled for all of you, humbled for so many people that watch online and share, all that. But as I thought about that, I thought you would not take a boy with a bunch of brothers idiot criminals, banned from a high school for life. Jokes on them, I go back all the time now because all the people have left since then. But literally, in all that, that's not who you would pick to be here in this moment. But God loves taking unlikely people and doing unlikely things. If you don't believe that, then just read through the stories of Jesus. He's constantly meeting and saying things and doing things with the most unlikely people, and then they turn around and do the most unlikely things. That's the good news of the gospel. Nehemiah is no different. He's a cupbearer. Now, growing up, once I was told this story, it's like, yeah, he's the cupbearer. So what it basically was, he was basically like a grunt for the king, because the king, the easiest way to kind of overthrow the government was to poison the king back then. So the king would, very powerful, would be like, have a guy beside him. Before he'd take a drink of his wine, he'd be like, drink his wine, drink it, wait 5 minutes. Okay, he's not throwing up, he's not getting sick, fine, I'll drink it. And maybe he did that, but the more I looked into it, Nehemiah's role was probably more like the chief of those. So to think about Nehemiah today, Nehemiah was probably like the vice president to the president. He was literally in the king's ear every day. He walked around with the king. He was basically like the chief of staff. Like anything going on, Nehemiah knew all the time. He's in the most powerful country in the world. The king is the man, and Nehemiah is number 2. That's why this story is going to take a turn in just a second, because Nehemiah's brother's going to come back. And just in passing, Nehemiah's brother talks to this guy who's living indoors, unheard of at that time, had the finest clothes. He ate like a king because he ate with the king every day. His life is so cush, it's perfect. And his brother's walking by, and he makes one comment. He asks how his city is doing where he used to grow up, his hometown. He just asks how it's going. One simple question starts the spark. So as we go through the story today, I just want to give you just a couple thoughts. The first is this, the spark. The spark. What if we, as a group of people, would say, we're going to let our hearts break for what's broken? Let's let our hearts break for what's broken. Look what it says in verse 3. He asked how things are going. They said to me, things are not going well. The wall of Jerusalem has been torn down. When I heard this, I sat down and wept. In fact, not just wept, for days I mourned, fasted, and prayed to the God of heaven. Spark. One spark. One little passing by, hey, good to see you, brother. Go back to wherever you're from. By the way, how's our old hometown? You know where our grandparents grew up. How's that? It's not good. And he said, just literally hearing not good shook him to the core. It broke him. Something's broken, and it broke him. Now, let me say this to you, and I've told this, and if you heard it before, just chill, but most of you don't show up that much anyway, so you'll hear it now. When I was at Moorhead, right before I left for Moorhead, I'm 18 years old, and in my church, like culture, what it was is if you wanted to speak or do something like I'm doing now, then you had to be called. So I'm talking to people trying to figure this out. Well, anyways, literally 2 weeks or a week before I leave to go to school at Moorhead State, I kind of get in front of church, say, hey, I think I've been called to be this, and blah, blah, and everybody cheered and hugged me. It was great. So I left Moorhead State. When I went to Moorhead State, I'm like, I'm in college, and I'm on the football team, didn't play on the football team. And in the middle of all that, I'm like, but I probably should do something churchy, right? I got to be a church person. Like, that's my job. So I went to this little thing they had for, like, Christians, and I went the first night, and no offense, it's fine. To me, it was very churchy. A lot of churchy people saying churchy things, but they were college kids. I was like, okay, whatever. So I'm like, I need to get the football team involved, because the football team was like me, just scoundrels. So I remember I was talking to them, and I was like, hey, you guys should come to this, and I named what the place was. And I remember one of them, he was like a junior, and he was like, dude, nobody, you go to that? And I was like, I've been a few times. He was like, they're weirdos. Like, they're a freak. Like, no. So okay, so none of them was in for that. They're mocking it. So then I was like, well, what can I do? So I realized in college, because everybody's poor and football players want to eat, I started inviting football players to my room. And we just did a Bible study. And before you think that's really big, it wasn't. I would read before they would all come in, I had this little book that kind of explained the Bible. It was a little blue book or a green book. I would read whatever that little section was in Mark, and then I'd be like, okay, memorize that, so that sounds smart. We would read it, and then they're like, what's this mean? I was like, well, since you ask what it means, and I would just repeat whatever that guy said. But it was awesome because I remember I'd do like prayer requests, because that's what you're supposed to do in a churchy moment, right? So these 12, 14 guys are in my dorm room, and I was like, okay, well, let's pray. Now, if you get in church, what's prayer request? If I just say that, all right, we're going to switch our gears, do prayer requests. Raise your hand. Then you guys would be, and it's very genuine, like, hey, could you pray for my sister? She's moving. Hey, could you pray for my dad? Some health issue? Yeah, absolutely. All those are good. So I'm just like, I don't know what prayer requests are. I remember prayer requests, and literally one of the guys raised his hand and said, I think my girlfriend's pregnant. I need you to pray she's not. I'm like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I guess like Jesus, like the virgin birth, like Jesus, reverse it, right? Reverse it. Pregnant and then just wake up tomorrow. It's like, I was like, I don't know what but it was like the crazy stuff. Like, yeah, I cheated on my exam. You know, my girlfriend caught me cheating 4 times. I was like, literally, Desmond, just quit cheating on her, okay? That was all our prayer was. But it was awesome. But I remember there was a guy who was our fullback, stud from Kentucky. Stud, like way down country, backwoods Kentucky. And he was like at practice, the guy didn't talk, just psycho. Well, like week 2, he comes in. I'm like, what is Adam doing in here? I don't know what's going on. And he would sit in my dorm was really tiny. He would sit in the corner, put his head down, and just like he was getting amped before a football game to kill somebody. He did that. He sat there the whole time, didn't look up, didn't say anything. So it's like, it's so awkward. Like, hey, so Mark said in chapter, this guy's psycho. Literally. Gets up and leaves, nothing. Next week, comes rolling back in again. So I'm sitting there talking. He's doing the exact same thing. I'm like, why is the psycho man in here doing his thing? Short story longer for me. We get to the end. He just sits there. Like, oh, everybody's out here, pray, have a good week, da-da-da. He's just sitting there like kind of rocking, losing his mind. Okay, yeah, what's up? Remember this. He looks at me, and I can tell he's been angry for 2 weeks. And he was like, I hate church people. And he went and told me the story. And this is probably what was a broken moment for me, the spark. He said, no dad in the picture, single mom, 4 boys. He said, I was the oldest. And he said, when I was about 13, which kind of made me think of my age, it's kind of the same story. He said, 13, my mom said, we're going to go to church. We've never been. We didn't know what was going on, but he was like, I was kind of the man of the house, trying to take care of the boys. And he said, I'll never forget my mom, who had multiple struggles, comes walking in. And he said, we go to this little country church, and she had on her best pair of jeans and some shirt that she had found from like 10 years ago. And as she walked in the door, there's a man standing at the door, maybe a deacon, who knows, maybe just a jerk. But he said, excuse me, ma'am, we don't wear jeans in this place. And he said, I watched my mom get in the car, break down. And he said this, he said, is that who you are? Because I don't like that. Matter of fact, I hate that. Well, because Adam could whip me in a street fight, I was like, I'm not that at all, bro. Like, no. Right? But it hit me. Why are we taking the greatest news in the world and creating any barrier? Why? Why would we? Why would we not just say, man, you need this. If you're broken, it's okay to be broken. But there's actually a way you don't have to stay broken. Right? That was the spark. That's what happened to Nehemiah. Nehemiah didn't, if it was modern day, how we handle things, we send Facebook, prayer emojis, right? 4 hands, praying. We don't even pray for him. Nehemiah didn't do that. He gets broken. It crushes him. So here's my question to you this morning. Even if you're watching online, what breaks your heart? What breaks your heart? That's kind of a dangerous question, but what breaks your heart may not break my heart. Just so you guys know that today, right? All of you in this room. You can come to me and be like, hey, we're going to do this. And like, I'm just, the kids in our area, whatever. It may not hit me. Why? That's because God's designed you in a specific way to be broken. Lean into that. Nehemiah, in a weird way, you hear the story and you're like, you're thousands of miles away. You've never even been in your homeland. Why would you care? But something in him, the spark, broke. Let your heart break for what's broken. And that can be all different in this room. That can be all different a year from now when someone hears this message. Because that's how God works. The strategy, part 2. Marry the mission, date the model. Some of you are like, I'll date a model. No, not that. Marry the mission, date the model. Look what he says in verse 5. He says, O Lord God of heaven, listen to my prayer. Look down and see me praying day and night. See me praying day and night. Emotion is a great catalyst, but it's a terrible architect. What do I mean by that? What Nehemiah does here is where I'm different, and it kind of makes me feel bad. Nehemiah gets this huge broken burden. He doesn't know what to do. So instead of just sitting there saying, okay, well, I could do this, and I could make a plan. I could call this person. They could help me. Nehemiah just says, I just started praying every day. I didn't have a model or a plan. I just simply said, God, help me with these people. People always come before plans. People always come before plans. Now, I can tell you guys, you probably would already imagine this, it is tough to work with me here. It's tough to be on a team. But part of the reason why people get so frustrated is because I live by this motto. We are going to marry the mission. The mission hasn't changed in 20 years. But we will date any model. I don't care if we change it tomorrow. Sometimes I can tell the people in our meetings, they're like, what are we doing now? But the point of that is because it doesn't matter how we do any of this. It really doesn't. I read this, and it was a unique article just a couple weeks ago. I talk about Blockbuster and Netflix. How many of you old enough to remember Blockbuster, rent movies in there? Yeah. You won't answer if I'm young or old, but you'll answer, I remember. I love Blockbuster. Late fees will get you, though, right? But here's what's interesting. They said Blockbuster was poised and positioned to do everything Netflix has done and beyond right now. Literally, they were in place to do that. But you know what happened? Blockbuster had a ton of stores, and their cash cow was late fees. So if you don't remember this, you young people are like, oh, no, what Blockbuster is. Okay, kids, back in the day, back in the 1900s, us old people would go into a store on Friday night or Saturday, and you'd rent VHS tapes. We'll get into that later. And you'd rent these tapes or DVDs, take them home and play them. And they had overpriced popcorn, overpriced candy. But here's what they did. Because Americans can be fat and lazy a lot, if you didn't return it the next day, then they just charge you each day you kept it out. Well, like 25% of Blockbuster's whole revenue was from late fees. So what they knew, they were like, okay, look, the things are shifting and people want something different, but we can't give up our cash cow. So they held on. Come along the same side, there's another company called Netflix, which you guys have heard. But what you don't know is when back in the 1900s and early 2000s, before many of you were born, they used to have these red envelopes, and they would mail you DVDs. And here was their claim. They'd say, no late fees. Keep it for a year. We don't care. If you want another one, just mail it back. As soon as you mail it back, we mail you a new one. But here's the thing about them. Blockbuster had this plan, and they said, but our motto is stores and late fees, and that's how we make money. Netflix comes along, and they said, we're here to entertain people. We're here to entertain, and that's simply it. So guess what happens? About 2005-10, streaming comes along. Blockbuster could have killed the game. They had more money, technology than Netflix ever had. Netflix said, we'll get rid of the envelopes. We don't care. We're here to entertain people. We'll let them stream all day long. Here's the point. All of you in this room know a lot about Netflix. Some of you have never heard of Blockbuster. Why? Because they said, here's our motto, and we love it, and we can't change no matter what. And they were married to how they did things. A guy wrote this quote. I thought it was really good. He said, when any organization stops committing to its mission, sustaining the motto becomes the mission. You see, sadly, that's how the Bible Belt churches work. We get so caught up, and you and I, we're all guilty of this, right? Well, I just wish we'd sing the old time song. Well, fine, great. I just wish when you came in, people weren't drinking coffee. I just wish you would drink. We can say whatever we want, and all of us can agree that's fine. It's a model. But at the end of the day, I don't care about any of them, just being honest. All I care about is the mission. What's the mission? That I can help you guys. We all collectively can live and love like Jesus, as Jesus lives in us and loves through us. That's how you find your true life purpose, no matter what route you go. I can prove this. The very first church business meeting happened in Acts 15. Let me explain what happens. This is a cool story real fast. We'll get back. So in Acts 15, what happened is the Jews, Jesus came to them, obviously first. Many of them become Christians after he's resurrected. So they're just becoming Jewish Christians. What that meant is we believe Jesus is the Savior Lord. He's God's son. But we're Jewish, so we follow all the Jewish customs. Fine. They were very strict. They had rules for what they could eat, when they prayed, when they went to bed, how they worked, what days they didn't work. They did all this. Well, what happens is crazy. Christianity spreads, and it goes to the Gentiles, which is us. Most of us in this room are watching online probably aren't Jewish. Okay, they didn't have those rules. So they're walking in, and all of a sudden they're trying to go into church and worship with these people, and it's like, I would never touch pork. Oh, no, pork is disgusting. It's vile to God. And you're over there, the Gentiles eating ribs with sauce on his face. What? I mean, they're just straight, they didn't care. So the church gets together, and here's their problem. In the business meeting, they called the leaders and said, we have to make them do what we're doing because it's our rules. Acts 15. And James, the brother of Jesus, I love what he says. He says this. He says, we should not make it difficult for the Gentiles who are turning to God. Let's not make it difficult for them. And they're like, no, James, you're the brother of Jesus. What do you mean? Are you saying we throw away all of our traditions? And he's like, that's what it takes? Yes. Think about that. That's revolutionary. But what James did is he said, here's our mission now. The models don't matter nearly as much. The future always starts with people, not plans. The future is always the mission of what God's doing, not any style or method that we do. Like it or not, that's how it works, the strategy. Marry the mission, date the model. So what do we do? Moving forward. I love this. Look at verse 6. He says, I confess that we've sinned against you. This is still his prayer. Even my own family and I have sinned. Now, I told this to 9:30. Something I love to do. I like to get political every now and then, just every now and then. And the reason I like to get political is this reason, for right here. One, I don't usually talk about side I'm on, the way I vote, any of that. Reason for that is it's a distraction, just for you. Some of you in here champion whatever I would say if I endorse somebody. Half of you would be like, can't believe you're that, wouldn't want to listen to me. Fine. Here's what I've learned to do, though. Instead of picking one side or the other, I pick the third option. And you know why? Because it makes everybody mad, right? It's a great strategy, great strategy. But I'll say this, no matter what side you're on, here's something fascinating. When we have a new president come in, I don't care which side it's on, here's what they'll do. They'll come in January, they'll give their State of the Union address to all the people, and they'll do two things. They'll brag about all the things they're getting ready to do, how things are going to change, how good they're going to be. They all do it, but they'll do something else. And they'll say, here's the problems we're facing. And let me tell you why we're facing them. You all know the routine. It's because of the last guy, right? Everybody plays the blame game. And here's the thing. It's easy for us in life to do the same. All of you in this room, what's this mean for you? What breaks your heart? What honestly breaks your heart? What bothers you? And even when you're like, why is no one else bothered by this? That's probably God saying, because I want you to be a catalyst. But you got to understand this. Methods change. Some of you in here, you're like, I want a good marriage, but no, I'm just like my dad. Did your dad have a good marriage? Well, no. Then don't be like your dad, right? It's the methods aren't it. It's actually the mission of what you're trying to do. But here's the problem for some of us. We can't let go of the past. We can't. We can't let go of the way things are done, and we want to blame, well, you don't understand the house I grew up in, and my mom used to, and da-da-da. We blame. Nehemiah didn't know. He's like, look, I've sinned. It's kind of a weird prayer. Nehemiah hasn't been to that homeland ever. This has been 500 years. What? Nehemiah, you didn't do anything to cause this. He's like, no, I'm going to own it too. I'm going to own it. There's a danger of nostalgia. There is. Nostalgia remembers feelings, not facts. My wife will testify, will verify this, because I lie a lot. This is the only true thing I'm going to say today. Okay? Seriously, though. I remember we used to go to this little church, little church in Chesapeake, and we loved it because our kids were little, right? So they're squirrely, like 2 and 3, 3 and 4, all over the place. So we'd be sitting on a Sunday night, and some of you like in here, you know how it is. You're like, shut up, right? Jesus loves you, but shut up, right? Oh, yeah, God's love covers everything. No condemnation. I will condemn you right now. You know, like what? Like you're losing your mind because they just won't shut up. And I remember there was an older lady there, like sweet older lady, and she was like, yeah, you got the sweetest kids. You know, they act up a little bit. And she said this, she was like, mine never did. Well, I doubled down on it. I was like, so you're telling me your kids when they were 2 and 3, I didn't go that much, I'm not confrontational, but it's like, yeah, you're telling me that Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, they just sat there, a 2-year-old never made a sound? Come on. But what happens? She probably remembers one night she went in and they probably were very good. They were really good. And she was like, that's how my kids acted all growing up. They didn't. Right? Nostalgia, we do that. We forget. And what happens is we can't build the future when we're trying to hang on to the past. We just can't. We can't. So what's that mean for you guys? What breaks your heart? What are you doing right now that maybe even God would say, that's not effective. Like it or leave it. So you lean into God and say, okay, then what is? But to move forward, you have to say, look, I'm not going to blame. I'm not going to put situations on. I'm going to move forward and just trust God. You're part of this. I'm thankful for the past, as many of you are, parts of it. But it's not about my past. Some of you are like, well, you know, my divorce, my situation. Don't matter. No, I'm going to tell my daughter for a second. My daughter had been driving for 2 months, and she hit a parked car. Dang near totaled her car. Almost totaled her car hitting a parked car. Here's the best part. It was our next door neighbor's car parked in there right in front of their street. So she, driving to school, 2 months into having her license, goes 8 feet and almost tows her car hitting another parked car. So when I'm talking to her, I'm like, look, I'm not going to lose my mind for a second. Let me just rationalize. How did this happen? Right? How do you hit a parked car and destroy? Just tell me. She's like, well, I was a little bit late for school. When I went to shift gears, my book bag got caught on that, and it was sticking, so I was looking down, and then as I was getting ready to pull out, it hit me. I didn't look behind me if someone was coming back. So catch it. I looked in my rearview mirror. So she looks down, and then she looks back, and when she did, she hit what was in front of her. I thought, that's a pretty good illustration for life. You know why? So many of us looking down, keep trying to look, the good old, either good or bad. Oh, they were so bad. I can't get past this. And you're not going to see what's in front of you. You're going to miss the moments. I was talking to a lady here just the other day. And she said her family moved here, moved back, and she's made the comment that her husband was sitting where they used to live. And he was like, remember how good it was here? And she was like, it was. It was so fun. But she was like, we also didn't have kids. Now we have a family. Life's changed. There's some pretty good stuff here too. But her point was all of us are guilty of almost just being like, don't you remember how it used to be? It was so good. It doesn't matter if it was or not. We're not living in the past. We're moving forward. What's the spark? What breaks your heart? What's the plan? And maybe it changes. And ultimately, to go forward, we have to let go of the past. And the last thing, this is most important, is your identity. So no matter what we say over the next few weeks, I want you to hear this. You will never hear, at least from me on this stage, ever say, if you just do this, then maybe God will do this. If you just do this, then maybe God would like you a little more. If you can just do this, then maybe God can finally be happy. No, we don't work for approval. We work from it. This is so amazing. Very few prayers in the Old Testament are like this, and it fascinates me. Look what Nehemiah says. This is the last verse. He said, the people you rescued by your great power, O Lord, please hear my prayer. Grant me success today by making the king favorable to me. Here's an ordinary man, most unlikely guy to do anything. But he says this. He talks to God not like he would the king who he's working with. He's like, I need you to help me for the king who's my boss. But you, God, the King of Kings, are my Father. He literally, this whole prayer you said, it's like literally a kid asking for help from his dad. Why? He understood, I'm not doing this so you'll love me more. I'm not doing this so maybe I can get in your good graces. He's like, I'm doing this because I realize I'm your son. So here's the order. Don't get this wrong over the next couple weeks as you start reading stuff. Okay, here's how it works. I am invited. Please get this. You've got a seat at the table. You know why you have a seat at the table? Because you're God's child. You're God's child. It starts that way. You know the second part? I'm invaluable. You want to know how valuable you are? Look at God who says, I only have one son. He meant the world to me. I sacrificed him for me, for you. That's how valuable you are. And then once you get that, literally, I'm invited. I have a seat at the table. This is Nehemiah's whole posture. I know I got a seat at the table. I know I'm indispensable in what's happening. That's when I can say, now what's for me to do? Then I'm invested. Now, all of life works the other way, right? You get invested, then someone in your company says, hey, you're valuable to us. Why? Because all the way you invested, and then they finally start inviting you to more steps. God's exactly the opposite. He says, no, you're invited right with me. You're my kid. And then he says, I need you to know how valuable you are. Then you become invested. So, here's what I would say for you guys. When you walked in, there's this little brochure, and this is kind of outlining as we've been praying and thinking about what's next, and that's yours to keep, take home. Will you just amuse me, please? Just take this and then throw it in the trash like at Arby's or something, okay? Because the first one I looked, and like one person had literally moved all of them to the side so they could sit down, and they're just laying on the floor. I was like, I just mentioned this to you. You didn't get, no. But here's what I say. Tonight, come back. If any of you are interested at all, okay? 6 o'clock. Our new to C3 groups is starting. Going to be awesome there. But if you just want to come in, if you look around, questions, kind of wonder what's going on, kind of thinking through some stuff, any questions at all. I'm going to be here at 6 to probably 7. Love to talk. I know here it's kind of hard on stage and you're just hearing me one way. Love to do that with you guys. But at the end of the day, we said this. Over 10 years ago, we said, what if? What if all the cool things God's doing is just the beginning? And over the last year and a half, as I'm getting older, newsflash, I'm just a few years away from 50. I heard the gasp somewhere. No way. You're just a baby. No one gasped. But I'll say this, okay? I've been thinking, what's the future of this look? What's next? What's next for leadership? What's next for 10 years from now when I'm on the walker and like, what's that look like? And I want it to be good because I know God has an amazing plan. So as we start thinking about what's next, remember this. It's all about people. And our goal is all about making space for more people who are broken to know it's okay to be broken, but you don't have to stay there. God has more for you than that. That's why I'm excited. So this morning, before I pray, just real quick, I want to show you a video of a great friend of mine. He's literally, you've heard me talk about him many times. He's like literally a second son to me. And just a few weeks ago, I had the privilege to baptize him, and it was amazing. But more than even that, like I said, literally second son. He's with me a ton throughout the week, is watching what God's been doing in his life. And I can just tell, even the stuff he's texting me, the stuff he's saying, but I can just tell God's moving, and I think, so thankful for that. So I said, hey, I'd like to do a video with you, and when we do that, I want you just to tell us, like what C3 meant to you. And that helps me think of this younger generation and what's next, so check it out.
Man, it's been amazing being with C3. C3 has shaped me into someone that I never even thought I could be. Like, it's certain things in my life that I hold back from, but like I had a lot of things in my heart that I wasn't allowing God to take control over. Once I started being alone to myself and praying and then just realizing what I was going through and realizing that there's no point of me giving 75% if the other 25 I feel like I can do it. That's not what faith is. Faith ain't F-A-I and you lead the other T-H. I always maybe wanted to be the branch, now I want to be the tree. Basically C3 just showed me that you can be the tree. Now like I want to be the tree of every place I'm at. If I'm in Ironton, I want to be the tree. Now, if I'm in Ashland, if I'm at one of my stores that I work at, like, I want them to be able to say, yeah, like Emmett came in here and we soaked up so much from him. For 3 or 4 years I've been at C3, I love that aspect of me growing to that point. My soul burns with that feeling of like, man, where we can go with this, where they can go, or who he can touch, or what person they can touch with that, because like that's the thing for me. On what kid we can touch next, or what family member we can touch next. Overall, when we finally get our church finalized and get it in stone, we're going to be the best church in the tri-state. What's next is going to be great for us and for our church to come, and I can't wait.
Get ready to pray. What I love is Emmett's competitive. I like he put, we're going to be the best church ever, right? It's pretty awesome. I love it. Thankful for him. But as we think about this, and I want you guys to think about what's next, at the end of the day, it's all said and done. It's not plans. It's not a style. It's not a preference. It's not the way I wish we could do things. Even for me, there's things I like that we don't do. There's things that I don't like that we still do around here, because it's not about me either. It's not. It's about the mission. What's the mission? The mission is the same that Nehemiah had when he looked and said, this isn't right. We live in a broken area that's hurting. We live in a really struggling tri-state. And I honestly can tell you, there's no other place I'd rather be. Because no matter how dark something gets, it just takes a little bit of light to light the whole thing up. And that's what I want you to partner with us with. Over the next 12 months, and like I said, you can check that out, come back and ask questions. But I want you guys to partner with us. And that may look like serving. That may look like leading in a new area. That literally may look like I'm going to pray. I'm normally not a praying guy, Trent, but I'm just going to pray and kind of think through, how could God use me as a part of C3 for something that's broken to fix it? Amazing. It may look like giving. But whatever it is, I want you guys to take the next step with us as we say, what's next? And I can't wait. What God's done up to this point, beyond a miracle. Beyond a miracle. But I just feel like there's a chance there's so much more he still wants to do in and through us and obviously the other local churches as well. But this is our step to take. I want you guys, if you would, to pray with me. Father, I thank you so much for being so good to us. I thank you for this group of people. And God, I pray today, all things aside, all of us in this room would start thinking about what bothers me. What breaks my heart? What gets me so upset and other people don't even seem to care, God? So that's usually the start. God, I know it's a dangerous prayer, but it's maybe one of the most important prayers we can all pray. God, I also just pray today for some of us here, we keep doing the same thing over and over, and we're getting the same results, and we're frustrated. And maybe today it's realizing that the model or the style or the preference, maybe it just doesn't work. But that was never the point. God, I pray today for some of us who just can't let go of the past. whether we're stuck in the glory days or because of some massive trauma. We just keep going back to it. Today, the good news is, let's not crash ahead. So we're looking in the rearview mirror. You are a forward God. You're a God of motion. I pray today as we pray, what's next, God, that you just direct us. Guide us, do what only you can do, but never let us forget. All of us in this room have earned a seat at your table, not because we earned it, but because your son paid the price. Your son paid the admission ticket so all of us can sit at your table. And that's the greatest price in all the universe, your perfect loved son. So today I pray that we won't get that out of order. We'll know we're invited. We're incredibly valuable. And now we can be invested. God, it excites me to think over the next 12 months how you're going to use more and more people, see more and more lives change, and ultimately to bring hope to the tri-state. We are for the tri-state, always have been, always will be. Jesus, thank you for all of that. Beyond words, we're grateful today. We ask this in your name. Amen. Like I said, if you have questions or you want to come to New to C3 at 6 o'clock tonight, love to see you then. Take care.